New York City is beautiful in a lot of different ways. Like, if you grow up in America, the Israeli perspective is like loved like apple pie. Palestinian perspective is like hated like cockroaches. So, luckily, growing up in Massachusetts and then New York City, we have a lot of nice anti-Zionist voices, and we have we have Middle East Crisis Committee here today, and a lot of Israeli refuseniks that refuse to serve in the army. So I take a lot of shots at the American left, the Israeli left, and here's the one. I'm pretty unabashed about my feelings. Every time I think of 9/11, I see burning flesh stripping off the bones of Iraqi children in Fallujah, now Gaza. I tend to memorialize the forgotten, the eclipsing collateral damage of our unpunished crimes, and maybe it's because I'm a numbers guy. Because if I had $1 for every time an Iraqi died since 2003, I'd be a millionaire. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I don't know who to hate more. The governments in the West or the politicians in the East who sell their souls quicker than the oil they export. Strong men who use Palestine as a tool to line their pockets and don't give a nickel to their people. Quisling governments who stitch mouth shut for a check from Washington and AIPAC. How can you be their prototypical anti-Semite if you're signing peace accords to oppress your own people? And then Orientalists and idiots want to talk about how we can't have democracy in the Middle East because of what happened in Gaza. A Hamas boogeyman wrapped in democratic elections. Rahm Emanuel wants to educate me and my people about democracy gone wrong. Why doesn't he try implementing one in Israel first, instead of bowing down to terrorists like his father and the IDF, lauding a third-rate racist European society that's imploding quicker than its moral standing in the world? Enlightened like 1950s Afrikaners and slave traders. Just because a house is beautiful doesn't mean the bones you built it on have fully decomposed. The Israeli left is about as alive as Ariel Sharon. I'm sick and tired of asking for permission to resist from antiquated leftists and progressives who care more about keeping it kosher than moving things forward. I put down my pen and waving fist to resist with college kids and Palestinians. Boycott and divest, because honestly, who cares about preserving a living when governments are killing civilians? Complicity by silence and reserve units bombing Gaza. Your academics and scholars, leader groups and practitioners are part of the problem. And if that doesn't fit into your long-term plan of rejecting my right to return, I'm sorry. Maybe one day you'll return to reality where my people have babies quicker than Zionists can concoct Jordanian options. I'm not looking for your sympathy or your introspective confessions. Won't sit on my hands so they lose oxygen like the people of Balad and Rafah. Vote for Barack Obama and pretend that his 22 days of silence was golden, while emaciated children starved to death surrounded by their parents' corpses. This can't be America the Beautiful. A criminal with a few positive attributes doesn't alleviate genocide. Bombing Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq doesn't make you historic. It makes you as blind and bloodthirsty as the white men that came before you. Apathetic hipsters now excited about a president who broke history but not poverty, occupation, or corporate interests. I'd rather proudly walk through the graveyards of peace accords and failed dialogue sessions than keep seeing my people just as occupied or third-class citizens. We're the gavel that'll slam down like a verdict. I'm not waiting for Israel, America, the Supreme Court to approve it. We'll boycott Lev Leviathan, Caterpillar, and your apartheid industries. We're taking back the right of return and keys to a country, because I never asked you to go back to Europe or sit in open-air prisons. I'm not asking for your advice. I'm explaining the decision. You can stay here with us, but only as equals. It's not that you're Israeli. It's that you're wrong. That's why I fight for my people. Wow. Okay, now we'll love poems. Just kidding. Okay. The next piece I'm going to do is called Home. I have problems. I have a lot of poems memorized in my head. So I write down a lot of poems, and then I perform a lot of poems. The next piece is called Home. And this one doesn't really get prefaced. The next one I'm going to preface well. But you know, like I said, like it's not about me being Palestinian. It's not about me. You know, like my grandparents are refugees from 1948, and as much as that bothers me, as much as I miss Palestine, as much as it hurts when I go back to Palestine, it's about universal justice. You know, when I was living in Queens when Sean Bell was gunned down, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you're from, where you're from, you know what I mean? An injustice is an injustice. And the more that we start to see that, like one of the saddest things that I've seen is the lack of amount of coalition building. And one of the great things about the youth is that they're joining up with other struggles, because whether it's a mother's life in Nicaragua, whether it's in Iraq, or whether it's here at home, we should all be caring about what's going on. So that's what I try to keep my poetry focused on. And you know what, for me it's like I learned Palestine through the anti-apartheid struggle. I learned Palestine through the civil rights movement. I was a kid that grew up in Western Massachusetts that was like, screw the tabbouleh and the hummus, and it's like I wanted like Coca-Cola and McDonald's and I wanted to assimilate. And then I grew older. And then it comes back to you, it like comes back. Like you're like, ha, I'm not Palestinian, I don't care what my nose says. And then and then you get older and you're like, well, maybe I do kind of identify. So this is called home. I drink a lot of water. It's a lot of eyebrow shouting at you. Okay. I didn't grow up in a refugee camp. I grew up here, comfortable, able not to know or care, choose my own blood type, close the book, turn off the TV, forget the stories. A gay man once asked me, why do you give a damn about Palestine? Why not, I replied. Why did men and women clench fists and fight back at the Stonewall, push through Matthew Shepard hate crimes legislation in Congress? I care about Palestine for the same reason I can't stomach watching Schindler's List. Still can't comprehend why kids in my neighborhood picked on Michael Paul for being Jewish, was 10 years old the first time someone called me a sand nigger. And I don't hate the town I grew up in, but I don't forget those experiences either. The way white women on the block talk down on my brown mother. Don't forget the stories, pretend it didn't happen. Don't feel the need to dream up an alternative American childhood, as if its vision was ever intended to include me. People fight back because they identify. My grandmother still fills tear ducts with longing memories of Jaffa, a home we in America take for granted. I don't ask anyone to forget about the Holocaust or feel as Jewish because they grew up on Long Island. Not going to have someone tell me where my loyalties lie, because my physical environment should define who I am. Remembrance is part of action. Never again applies to many peoples. I'm a product of America, but no less Palestinian. Palestine being that fight for freedom and justice. Not just low valleys, beautiful sunsets, and fig trees. Not just my grandparents' house in Jaffa that's still standing. Not just a place I nervously visited. Can barely catch a cab in Arabic, yet welcomed, like they were expecting my return. Home, in the realest sense. I'm Palestinian. I was born in America. That is who I am.